Hey Chopper, this viewer's not subscribed.
Card Kaizoku.
This video is sponsored by Card Market, Europe's largest online marketplace for trading card games. Hey, subscribe my Patreon. Thank you. Alright, we're going to be doing our OP06 meta leader tier list. Finally going to do it. This is going to be a data-driven tier list. A little different from how I usually do it. Yeah, I just noticed that quite a lot of the other tier lists are pretty filled with bias. So we're just going to let the data speak for itself. The numbers will be the truth here, regardless of what I feel or not. These tournament results are taken from eggmanevents.com. I'll link his YouTube and then I'll link his website too. And I'm also using my market review dashboard to aggregate those numbers and provide stats and insights for this video. So I guess shout out to myself for my market review dashboard. You can watch my market review videos to see what it looks like. And if you want access to it, details are in those videos. All right, starting off in the S tier. Oh wait, I made them all S. Hold on 1 second. We're going to be taking a look at 9 regionals that have happened in OP06. I know that there are some happening this weekend too, but they're not going to be available for me to report on before I upload this video. But yeah, I'm only including regionals because those are the ones that matter, right? The stakes are high. The prize cards are insanely valuable. So people are trying their best for it. They're not entering some like meme deck. Well, they probably still are, some people entering meme decks, but it's a lot more competitive, so they probably get filtered out a lot easier. With these 9 tournaments, that means we have 144 top 16s to account for. So based off those 144 topping decks, so starting off with the S tier, we have Blue-Black Sakazuki. No one is surprised here. Sakazuki is the top deck of the meta. Whether you were predicting he would be or whether you've seen the results and played against it, it's apparent now that Sakazuki is still at the top with an average placement of 7.87 and a top 16 rate of 41 decks. This puts him firmly at the top here. He has a top 1 rate of 2 decks, top 4 of 7, and top 8 of 13 decks. So yeah, Sakazuki took 2 regionals here. There's no denying his place in the meta here, and once he gets banned in June, I think the meta is going to shake up quite a bit. Up next in the S tier is Gecko Moria. Also not surprising. Gecko Moria is pretty close in stats to Sakazuki actually, with an average placement of 7.98 and a top 16 rate of 43. He took 3 regionals and had a top 4 rate of 12 decks and top 8 of 10 decks. So in regards to placing 8th or higher, Gecko Moria does a little better than Sakazuki, but Sakazuki does have the better average placement. And in regards to top 16 rate, they're nearly identical. Gecko Moria at 43, Sakazuki at 41. So for all intents and purposes, you can pretty much consider them equal. They're the equal leaders in the S tier here. Up next, also in the S tier actually, is Katakuri. So this one's maybe a little contentious. I think a lot of people put Katakuri down. There's a lot of like yellow bullying going around. And to be honest, the people who are making those claims that Katakuri doesn't deserve to be an S are people who play Sakazuki and Gecko Moria, which just so happens to be 2 leaders that Katakuri does pretty well against. Oh, would you look at that? Nothing suspicious there, right? Right, you'll notice the tier list from the people who play these other leaders tend to not think highly of Katakuri, but the numbers speak for themselves. Can't lie from the numbers. So Katakuri has an average placement of 8.94, a top 16 rate of 29 decks, took 3 regionals, top 4 rate of 5 decks, and a top 8 rate of 5 decks as well. So yeah, Katakuri won 3 regionals, there's no denying. You can claim luck all you want, but like after this many amount of games, I think it's kind of hard to claim that Katakuri only wins because of luck, right? You can't win 3 regionals based off luck. No one's that lucky that many times. And then the average placement of Katakuri being lower than Gecko Moria and Sakazuki, that just could be due to the fact that there's more Katakuri players in general. So you'll have the bad Katakuris bringing down the average. But yeah, it seems like good Katakuri players are able to put in results. It has more top 1s than Sakazuki and just as many as Gecko Moria. So because of that, I think Katakuri does deserve to be in the S tier along with Sakazuki and Gecko Moria, much to the chagrin of those 2 leaders, right? I'm sure a lot of Gecko Moria and Sakazuki players would rather put Katakuri in A in the separate tier, but judging from my numbers, Katakuri clearly deserves to be with these 2 in the S tier. That does round off the S tier though, so we'll move on to the A tier. So the first leader we have in the A tier is Blue Purple Reiju. Yeah, this one was quite surprising. It is quite the cheap deck, pretty budget to build, and it is putting in results. Reiju has an average placement of 9.34. 10 decks made top 16 with Reiju. It did not win any regionals, but it got top 4 twice and then got top 8 3 times. Yeah, this is, I think, quite indicative of a healthy meta, potentially, right? Because new players can get into the game and then be competitive with like a $200 deck, which is great. You don't need a $500, $600 deck like with Sakazuki, Kakamori, and Katakuri here. Actually, Katakuri is kind of cheap now without the 8-cost Katakuris, but yeah, Kakamori and Sakazuki are quite expensive, quite prohibitive for like casual players to get into the game with. Reiju being an option for those kind of players is, I think, really cool to me. Up next in the A tier is Green Yellow Yamato. The Green Yellow Yamato has the stats to back it up. It has an average placement of 10.59. 8 decks got top 16, no top 1s, no top 4s, but 2 top 8s. So yeah, slightly worse than Reiju, but not enough that I would put Yamato in a tier below Reiju. It has almost the same amount of top 16s, and placement is not too much different from each other. I do believe Yamato is also quite the budget option as well. Yeah, Yamato is more expensive than Reiju to build, but still half the price of a top tier Kakamori or Sakazuki deck. Then up next in the A tier, I would actually put Whitebeard here, surprisingly. So Edward Newgate has an average placement of 3.5, which is insanely high actually, but a top 16 rate of only 2 decks. One of them won a regional and the other one got top 8. So while it doesn't have a high number of top 16s, the 2 that did get top 8 placed pretty high, right, with an average placement of 3.5, one of them being a win in a regional, in the Oceania regional. I don't think you can scoff at Whitebeard's power here. Maybe if it got one top 16, you could possibly claim it to be a fluke, but the fact that it won a regional and then got top 8 as well, 2 decks, 2 players, I think that has to count for something, and I think that counts enough to put it into A tier. Honestly, the top 16 rate just might be low because no one's playing the deck. And then I know I said in the beginning that this is going to be a data-driven tier list, but this one has a bit of a personal perspective on my end. So I would also put Red Purple Law in A tier as well, actually. Red Purple Law does have an average placement of 6.98, which is pretty high. Higher than the decks in the S tier, actually. But it does only have 3 decks in top 16. No wins, 1 top 4, and 1 top 8. So if I'm going to use that same argument for Whitebeard, I think you could make the same argument for Red Purple Law. And the thing is, Red Purple Law isn't even in his final form, right? He needs a couple cards from EB01 to fully be a menace in the meta. That's what's stopping him from being S tier, I believe. But yeah, I did pretty well in my Red Purple Law run as well. So I have some of the first-hand experience to back this up. Honestly, Red Purple Law does well into every deck on this list except for Gecko Moria. Gecko Moria almost feels like an auto-lose for Red Purple Law, but yeah, against every other deck, it actually feels like pretty great. And the reason that you see a lot of people put Red Purple Law like in C tier is because, again, a lot of the people making these tier lists are Gecko Moria mains, and Gecko Moria mains have no trouble against Red Purple Law players at all. So I think there's a little bit of bias there. They don't consider Red Purple Law being great because every time they face one, they just demolish them. But if you're any other leader on this tier list, you have faced the menace that Red Purple Law can be. So because of that, my personal experience, and he does have some of the stats to back it up too, I have to put him in A. I don't think it's right to put him any lower than A, to be honest. I think he's really strong and only going to get stronger soon. And that actually rounds off the A tier. We'll move on to B now. So in the B tier, Enel would be here. Enel has an average placement of 10.04 with 3 decks that got top 16 with it, and only one of them got top 8. Yeah, these are respectable stats. It's not enough to put it into A, right? There's a clear difference between Enel versus Newgate and Red Purple Law, even though the number of top 16s is similar. The average placement is a lot lower at 10.04, but because of that, I think Enel deserves to be 1 tier lower. Also in the B tier is Perona. Perona also has 3 decks in top 16 with an average placement of 11.59, so lower than Enel, and no decks top 8'd with Perona at all, so similar stats to Enel. So I think Perona belongs in the same tier as Enel. And that rounds off the B tier actually. So we'll start off in the C tier. In the C tier we have Uta. The Uta has an average placement of 9th with only 1 deck that got top 16, which means that that deck did get 9th because it's an average of 1. Yeah, could be a fluke or it could be that not enough people are playing Uta, but it did get top 16 in the end, so I can't deny that. I have to put it on the list. But yeah, placing 9th at only one deck, I don't think I can consider it at the same level as Enel and Perona. So because of that, it has to be one tier lower. And then lastly, we have Nami. Nami did get top 16. It got 16th place to be exact. So kind of similar to Uta, only one deck, but can't even claim that it almost got top 8, right? It got 16th, which is barely the cutting off point, but which is still better than any other deck that's on this page here, right? These didn't make it. But yeah, just to be more accurate and pedantic, and so that like Uta mains don't get mad at me, we'll do this. So Uta is one tier higher than Nami, just due to Uta being 9th and then Nami getting 16th, just to appease everyone. I think Nami's just happy to be on this list at all. Alright, so that is my data-driven OP06 tier list. None of these other leaders down here made top 16, so I'm not going to consider them for the purposes of this video. But yeah, let me know what you think. I just thought that some of the other tier lists were a little too biased for my liking. Again, a lot of the people making tier lists are either Sakazuki or Gecko Moria players. Or maybe that's just the people I follow on my feed, but yeah. They're placing Katakuri lower than I think he should be, and they're placing Rev Up a lot way lower than I think he should be. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know your opinions. But again, your opinions will be against my actual numbers, so I don't know if there's much discussion to be had there, but leave a comment anyway, I guess. And then if the couple of regionals that happened this weekend shook anything up, I guess I'll do like a part 2 of this video, including those. But yeah, for now, this is all I have. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Car D Kaizoku.